Thank you, and welcome to What's Your Story. It's great to have great to be back, and I appreciate that you're here. I appreciate John Vaughn having us here, and also TV Hamilton. The idea with the program, What's Your Story, is that there are a lot of people with a lot of stories out there, and there's a lot of interesting things that happen in people's lives, and there's a lot of people that are very much involved in a lot of stories that happen in this area. This, in a lot of ways, this program has progressed to kind of being an oral history of our area, and I'm enjoying that very much, and I appreciate that you have come out to support, well, it's probably support Gerry. So with the program, What's Your Story, as I jokingly tell my guests, including Gerry, this isn't 60 Minutes, this isn't 2020, we're not trying to uncover dirt. Whatever dirt you bring to the floor, that's a different story. But no, this is, it's very much finding some interesting things along the way. We've heard some stories that folks have come up to me later and said, you know, I really didn't realize that person had done that or been involved or had been through that. So we appreciate that. And I thank everybody along the way, including Gerry, for being willing to share, because that means a lot. Now, Gerry Hammond, now you are a Hamiltonian from birth, but you left for a little while and came back. Now, your family, you're originally from this area. What
That's right.
Family size?
I'm the oldest of four girls, to Jim and Detta Grimm, and grew up in Hamilton, went to Old Adams School, which is now the Senior Citizens Partners in Prime, went to Wilson, and went to the old Hamilton High class of 56.
Oh,
Some of my friends and classmates are sitting out there.
And you're not afraid to put that date out there?
No. I mean, you are what you are, so.
And now along the way, again, you grew up in the area, did the kind of the usual things, you were in school activities and so forth, and I have to say along the way, it's interesting that you met someone very early on that you ended up spending the rest of your life with.
That's true.
That was in 7th grade?
7th grade. Sat behind me in homeroom.
Some guy named Gerry?
That's right, Gerry Hammond. I didn't like him very much because he teased me all the time. And I was, believe it or not, shy in 7th grade, and I just didn't appreciate him teasing me.
That's how 7th grade boys show affection, I think. And then they
pull
your hair and tease you. So you actually, how did you and Gerry come to be? That again, you didn't like him very much. He was teasing you, but you actually met him in 7th grade, and you dated all the way through school?
Probably the summer before the 10th grade. We were all trying to learn how to jitterbug, and at a friend's house, and he asked me to dance with him, and we danced ever since.
That's wonderful. Now, the obvious question is Gerry and Gerry. There's Gerry Hammond. There's Gerry Hammond. There's Gerry and Gerry. There's Gerry male, Gerry female. How did you deal with this, or was there? I'm sure there were jokes along the way.
Lots of them.
Yeah.
It seems like most of our friends figured out a way to address us. People called us big and little, he and she.
He Gerry, she Gerry, Gerry, he
right,
Gerry. Okay.
Right. But Gerry and I, we just sort of could tell who they were talking to based on what they were asking. So we didn't really call each other or anything like that. But a lot of people did. They found their own way to distinguish between the two of us.
Gerry and Gerry, and that's kind of always I've heard along the way. Gerry and Gerry along the way. And now you graduated again, went all through school in Hamilton.
Right.
And went to Miami University?
No.
Oh.
I went to Ohio State University.
Ohio State. Okay. And now then again, you had dated through school. Now where did Gerry go?
He went to Princeton.
Okay.
So we had a 4-year romance through letters.
And you carried on a long distance relationship.
Right. See each other at vacation time.
Vacation time. And he was studying architecture.
Right.
I mean, that was something, I guess, from the very beginning he knew he wanted to do. And you were studying education?
Elementary education.
Okay. So you both go to school. You were able to keep a relationship going long distance, even without social media. How could that be?
Letters.
Wow.
I have 400 of them.
You still have?
Yes.
Really? That's beautiful.
Saved all of them. Yeah. I read a couple of them every night.
You know, there's something about that. We talk about technology, and we talk about, you know, whether it's letters or pictures, and we take all our pictures with our cameras or our phones, and then they're on our phones, and then they're our hard drive, or they're in our put them on a disc, but we don't get out. My wife and I have talked about it. We don't get them out and look at them. Whereas hard copy pictures, you would actually, even slides, you would get out and look at slides.
Right.
And likewise with with letters. What do we have? What love letters do we have to save now? It's interesting.
Yeah.
A card or two, and you have over 400.
I do.
That's wonderful. Okay, so you both go to school, you both graduate, and you
Got married 2 weeks after he graduated. I graduated in March, and he graduated in June. I took a few extra courses from my sophomore year on to graduate a quarter early. My parents, I had 3 younger sisters, so if I could get cut down on 1/4 of tuition, that would be helpful. Plus,
They
it
had
gave
3
me
more to
time
pay
to
for.
plan a wedding.
Well, that brings up an interesting question. We didn't talk about this, but again, had you planned to get married out of high school? You waited till college, or did this happen along the way? Did he propose long distance through a letter? Can I ask that?
You can ask that.
Will you answer it? I guess no.
I will. In all honesty, we knew when we were in about the 11th grade that we loved each other. We went to separate colleges because he had the opportunity to go to Princeton. Gerry was very smart. And I went to Ohio State, but we just decided, first we decided we were going to date other people. And so the only dates he had were he went to see some of my high school friends that were at schools out in the East, and they all wrote me letters and said all he would talk about was you. And I had a couple of dates, and then on Friday night I would call them up and say, I'm going home, even though I wasn't. I told a fib. And then I just decided, this is silly. I don't want to do
this is not what you're
this,
looking
so
for.
don't do this. So we just went through college, you know, writing letters and calling each other once a week. That was our big, Sunday night was our big expense to call each other.
Because you had to pay for long distance.
That's right. And it was a whole $1.70. And we thought that was a lot, so.
That's just a beautiful story. That you knew it right away, or not right away, but you knew all the way through this relationship, and it wasn't worth dating other people.
No, it wasn't. It was difficult to do, but we knew that our future would be better if we did this. If he took advantage of the opportunity he had
Right.
to go there. So
It's interesting because it is a test. 4 years is a long time.
it was.
And it's an interesting test. So 2 weeks after you graduate, you get married.
Yes.
And now again, you took a hiatus, not a hiatus, but a time away from Hamilton before coming back. Where
Right.
did you go after school?
We went to Boston because he was going to go to graduate school at MIT. And I got a teaching job there. And we lived there for 2 years. And then I was expecting our first baby, and he was finishing his thesis, so we moved back to Green Hills in a townhouse. And at the
So you're back in the Cincinnati area, but not in Hamilton.
Not in Hamilton. And when he finished his thesis, his family, his father was a builder and a developer. And he was in the throes of planning the Hammond North, which is down on, what is that? Pleasant Avenue. It becomes, whatever it is. It's beyond College Hill. Across from the Methodist home, I think it is, down there. Anyway, he was building a luxury high-rise, and the architecture firm was from Atlanta, and they asked Gerry to be the construction manager representing the architecture firm while they built that. So he did that for 2 years, and in the meantime, he designed a little apartment building in College Hill, and his family was also in home building, and they were having Home-A-Rama down in Pleasant Run Farms. So Formica was really coming to the fore, and they asked him to design a Formica house. So that was the first house that we bought, We had Formica walls and Formica counters, and lots of Formica. But I loved that house. It was really neat.
That's interesting. You moved. Your first house you really moved into was a house that he designed.
That's right.
It's kind of like the Brady Bunch
Yeah,
idea.
I guess, yeah.
But interesting that you were able to do that. Now, so he is obviously making a name in architecture, and you're in a position where you can, well, now you had left teaching because you're starting to raise a family.
Right.
So you're able to be mobile, and he's able to pursue a career. And from there, you said the company was based in Atlanta. He then moved on to another opportunity out of Cincinnati?
No, you had to have 3 years apprenticeship in architecture at the time, after you graduated. So he had done 2 years with this firm, finishing the Hammond North. So he decided to take his 3rd year with this same firm, Weiss Simpson Aiken, which is a big Atlanta firm. So we had to, even though we had bought the Formica house and lived there 6 months, then we had to leave the Formica house and go to Atlanta. And by this time we had 2 kids, and we lived there for a year while he finished his apprenticeship. And while he was down there and just about ready to finish up, my dad was in Rotary, and
Here in Hamilton.
in Hamilton. And Jim Steed was in Rotary, and Dad was having lunch at one of their Rotary meetings at the same table as Jim Steed, and he said to Jim Steed, "Jim, do you need any architects? My son-in-law's just finishing up his apprenticeship, and he would be a good one for you to get." And Jim said, as a matter of fact, at the time, one of his partners was ill, and he said I could use some help. So Jim called Gerry down there, and they made arrangements for Gerry to have an interview with him when we came back in about 2 weeks. So that was it. They hired him,
And then now he wasn't a partner right away.
no,
Okay, because again, we all know the
you don't
name
get to be a partner right away.
Right. Okay. He was just coming out of being an apprenticeship, because we all know the name Steed Hammond Paul,
Right.
the firm in town.
Right.
So it was Jim Steed, and at that time,
It was, Hare, Hetrick, and then Hare, Hetrick, then it became Siegel Steed, and Bill Siegel was ill, and then it became Steed, and then eventually Gerry, which became Steed Paul, and then Andy Paul came along, and so then it was Steed Hammond Paul.
Right.
And then after that, they just didn't add, they had more partners, but you can't have a name with 25,
Right.
names in it. So it was Steed Hammond Paul for a while, and then it became SHP, Leading Design, and that's what it still is, only in Cincinnati now.
and now there were a number of locations. They
Yeah.
expanded quite a bit. What were some of the other locations?
They had an office here. Of course, this was the home office. And they had an office in Cincinnati. They had an office in Columbus. And then they opened one in Denver. So, but I couldn't tell you where they are now, honestly.
So you're back in Hamilton, and now you ended up with, how many children did you raise?
Well, when we moved back to Hamilton, we had 3.
Okay.
And then we had a 4th one after we moved here. So 3 boys and a girl.
So you're settling in as a family now. Career is fairly stable with Gerry, and you go back into your career.
I did. I started out at the Front Street Presbyterian Preschool when our youngest child entered, when he was 3. And I taught 3 days a week there for half a day. Took him, he went in a class, and then I had a class. And I was there for about 4 or 5 years. And then I was in the afternoons during the strike in 1980, 81, on the Hamilton schools. In the afternoons, I would go to Fillmore and take one of the classes where the teacher was out. And during that time, one of the 6th grade teachers resigned from teaching, and Mrs. Copeland was the principal then. and she asked me to take over that 6th grade class. So I went from preschool 3-year-olds to 12-year-olds.
Which is easier? That's an answer. That's an answer right there.
You know, they're different. They're so different. I felt that way about my whole teaching career. I went from 6th grade to the end of my teaching career. I was in 1st grade, and when you have 1st graders or little kids, you're on stage all day. Mm-hmm. And you have to have something different about every 15, 20 minutes because that's about the limit of their attention span. With 6th graders, but you don't have discipline problems, really. Mm-hmm. With 6th graders, they have a long attention span, and it's lots of fun because you can do a lot of things because they're so capable, debates and everything else. But you have to have a firm hand on things.
Yes, they're starting to sow their wild oats or try to get some freedom there, yes. So you continue with teaching. Mm-hmm. How long did you stay at Fillmore?
I was at Fillmore, gosh, I think I was at Fillmore 14 or 15 years. And then I switched to Monroe. For the last 3 years, I was at Monroe in 1st grade. And then my mother became ill, and my parents had moved to Berkeley, and she just needed a lot of help. So our last child was in his last year of college, so I just decided I didn't need to do this anymore. I was needed more there.
Sure. And you're again at a time and point where you had the ability to do that. Mm-hmm. You're almost done. Get it through that last year of college.
Yep, that's right.
Now, along the way, you have been involved in so many things with this community. I mean, we can even just look around at some of the buildings and things that happen nearby. I mean, I started making a list before we got together and just thinking, okay, we've got the City of Sculpture, the Hamilton Visitor Center, Ice Fest, Church, the Garden Club. There's so many things, Fitness Center, Pyramid Hill, so many things you've been involved with. One of the things I want to kind of get is the story of, oops, well, there I made a mess. The City of Sculpture. Mm-hmm. You were in on the very beginning of City of Sculpture and how that came about and how it's progressed to now. We've heard different stories of how it came about.
Okay. When they were building the new, well, now it's 20 years old, but the Government Services Building, and they had that big plaza, they decided to originally the plan was to have a clock tower, I believe, but then they decided, well, it would be a good idea to have a big sculpture instead. So they had a call to artists for a competition, and Rick Jones did it through the Fitness Center. Mm-hmm. And then when the artists submitted them, he asked people to come, and I think the reason I got invited was actually because of Gerry, because he was an architect, so he understood scale and everything like that, and I just got to go along, but I got to vote. And so that group voted on the one that was chosen. And
if I remember, it's called the Gateway, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. And so then when they had the dedication, right while they were having the dedication of it, Governor Taft came down, and he kind of said about the sculpture, well, Hamilton's the city of sculpture, and Harry Wilkes picked up on this, and it was actually his idea. So he called me up and said, I'm getting a group of people together to talk about putting up sculptures in Hamilton, and I'd like for you to come up to Pyramid Hill and ask a couple of your friends to come too. And I have some other people that are coming, and we need to talk about this and get this going. So I said, okay. So I went up there, and he told everybody about how he thought that we could make Hamilton the city of sculpture, as Governor Taft had declared. So what we needed was a committee, and then he said, and Gerry Hammond's going to be the president and head it up. And I thought, wait a minute, we didn't talk about this. But he's a very persuasive guy, and he said, you can pick who you want to help you. So I asked my good friend Patty Frolke to be the secretary and Bill Hartford to be the treasurer, and Ken Snyder, he helped on this, and Craig Wilkes. So we would meet at Craig Wilkes' office. And in the meantime, Gerry told me, he said, I'm going to let you in on something. They just passed a law in Ohio that 1% of the total cost of any public building must be spent on art. The state legislature passed that. And he said, that's quite a bit of money for that building, because the total cost of that building was,
imagine.
yeah. So he said, why don't you see if you can't get that money for sculpture? So at the time, Corky Combs was a commissioner. So Bill Hartford and I went to see him, and we made the pitch that wouldn't it be nice to have a sculpture that everybody could see instead of prints in all the offices that no one ever goes, the public never goes into, because it was tax money.
Right, it's
So,
public
yeah,
money, and
right.
it's sitting in walls.
Right, that the public never gets to see.
Yeah,
So Corky liked the idea, but he said, I don't want to have anything to do with picking the sculpture. Your group would have to do that. He only had one caveat, and that was to make it something non-controversial. So we searched, and that's this one snapshot that's in front of the administration building across from the courthouse
And
of
that's
all the
with-
children
with the
sitting on the
kids.
bench.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Because it had, you know, a wide diversity of kids. So that was the first one we picked. And then it just so happened at the same time, the Community Foundation was getting ready to celebrate their 50th anniversary, and they were picking 5 gifts to give to the city to celebrate. And they had decided to have a sculpture done honoring Robert McCloskey. And first they wanted to do the ducklings from Make Way for Ducklings, but Robert McCloskey's has it in his thing that no one can replicate that.
really.
They only replicated it one time, and that was when, Barbara Bush took them to Russia for a gift when they visited there, when he was president.
Yeah,
And so Dave Ballou called me, and he said, Gerry, what other stories could we do that would be representative of Hamilton? And so since I had been a first grade teacher, I said, well, you could do Lentil, because that was sort of based on his childhood here in Hamilton, and a lot of the scenes in the book that he drew, you can see them in Hamilton. So he liked that idea. So the Community Foundation commissioned Nancy Schoen to do that piece. So that piece happened. So there were 2 right there. And this Fitton Center had 2. The Fitton family gave the Spring, which is the couple sitting by the front door reading books
right.
in a garden.
Yes, right by the evergreens.
And they commissioned Fred Brownstein to do the lady sitting on the bench holding the sunglasses.
Right out in front of the
Right.
front street there, Monument Street.
Right. So all of a sudden, we had 4 or 5 sculptures going up.
In what period of time? This was within.
This was within about maybe a year and a half.
It all happened.
And
Got
all,
started,
yeah.
jump started real quick.
So then Dr. John Stewart and his wife came to me and said, we were a pioneer family in Hamilton. Their ancestors were pioneers that moved here. And they wanted to do something and have it put by the log cabin, and that became Pioneer Park. And so they commissioned an artist in Cincinnati, and he did that one, and the faces are based on a photograph of John and Marion Stewart when they were very young, a very young couple. So that one popped up, and then his brother and his wife Terry, Dr. Jim Stewart, said that they saw one in Florida that they really loved, and they would buy it for the city if we would accept it. And we said, well, do you have a picture of it? Let's see what it is. And it was that wonderful one of the grandfather reading book to children.
Which is down at the
Right.
Visitor Center, right across from here.
Right. So all of a sudden, we had all of these happening. It's just sort of like manna from heaven. Honestly, it just
I mean, it's amazing in a
happened.
short period of time, so many opportunities came about. I think that's just an interesting story. Gerry found that 1% of the budget had to go for art. That's just and taking advantage of that. That was just fantastic. So the City of Sculpture then again grew, and now it's in its own nonprofit organization has now formed, and it has process for accepting and searching and
They've done all
fundraising.
kinds of things. They've had call to artists for specific contests.
We've had the bench or
Found them,
the
yeah.
bench competition or contest. The again exhibits of forgive me now, I forget the artist. The figurative artists. We had the gentleman cutting grass out there. We had all
Yes.
the figures around town. Again, as
Stewart.
Yes, and being able to come in and then obviously being on loan to me,
Right.
but it adds so much to it. It's exciting.
It was very exciting. It still is. They've got some nice things planned for the future.
And you can't tell us.
I probably shouldn't.
Okay. All right. Well, we have to swear everybody's secrecy. Right? Well, that's great. That's exciting. Again, that's still exciting that there's things that are that are in the works that that are exciting enough that we want to keep it moving. Now, out of that grew this project Ice Fest, this festival,
Right.
Ice Fest. How did that come about?
That happened because Jeff Stahl had a company in Forest Park, and it was called Arctic Diamond, and he was a professional ice carver and an international winner. I mean, he won in Japan and other places. He really good. And he called Debbie Rulon at the Visitors Bureau, which was over in the hotel at the time, and said, why doesn't Hamilton do this? I'd like to put on a ice show, and I'd like for you as the Visitors Bureau to, sponsor it. And she said, I'm one person, I can't do this. And so she called me up and said, do you think that the City of Sculpture could do this? And I thought about it for about 3 minutes, and I said, it seems like we have to, because if we don't do it, somebody else will, and then we won't have it.
He was looking to do this, and
Yes.
if we passed on it,
He was going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Fairfield or Westchester or someplace. And so that was in October, and we put a committee together, and the first Ice Fest was the following January. So
October, November, December, January.
That was, yeah.
90 days.
yeah, it was
That's impressive.
pretty rugged, but we did it, and we had great weather, and people just turned out and drove. So then, that was all she wrote. We decided that was it. We did it every year for a while, but it is labor intensive. It really is. And we finally made a decision to do it every other year because, for one thing, we have to ask for a lot of money
Right.
from businesses and individuals and everything else in order to do it. And it was like we would finish in January, and in March we'd start asking for money again. Yeah. And that gets old. So it's better that we do it every other year now.
And this coming winter is an Ice Fest year.
Right? This coming January.
Do we have a theme yet? Are you allowed to tell us? Do we know?
I think that they should announce
Okay.
it.
and what is your relationship now with City of Sculpture?
I'm on the advisory board. After you serve a long time, then you can go on the advisory board. I still go to most of their meetings. And at the end, Mike Dingledine's the current president. He always says, what do the advisors think? And we tell them what we think. Sometimes we don't agree with what they're doing, but that's okay.
That's the fun part about being on an advisory
Yeah,
board.
right.
And now, we've kind of made, again, some of the things happening around downtown. You're also very involved with your church, Presbyterian Church.
Presbyterian Church.
And you, as you said, you taught at the preschool there. I put 4 kids through preschool there
did you?
too. So as my wife and I joke, I think we paid for at least one of the recarpets of that building. So, but
Probably did.
But you're involved with the church, and you have other projects now continuing with the church, like Hearts of Hope.
Hearts of Hope, we started 2 years ago. one December, a member of our church had a connection with a organization in Jerusalem of, they were Coptic Christians. They were actually Egyptians who originally had auto body shops, and when all this chaos started in the Middle East, they had their shops taken away from them. So they began carving Christian symbols, crosses, the nativity scenes, Mary and Joseph escaping, on the donkey, and just a lot of Christian things, and that became their livelihood. Well, they moved from Egypt to Palestine, and that wasn't so good. So now they live in Jerusalem, and the interesting thing is, to me, is the Jewish people protect them. So the stuff that we buy from them supports about 800, not just us, but other people that buy it too, supports about 800 families, and they're all Coptic Christians. And a lot of people don't know this, but Coptic Christians are the oldest Christians. That was founded by Mark, the Apostle Mark, in 42 AD. So they've been Christians longer than anybody here. So from that, we had such a success that very first December of just selling within our church. Everybody wanted this stuff, and so I started thinking maybe we could be a fair trade store. And so I went to New York with my friend Sherry Armstead, a couple of times when she was buying for her stores. And I was looking at the catalog, and I saw that one section was all fair trade booths. So I went there and got their cards and made notes about what they had to sell and all that sort of thing. And so I just asked the church powers if they could give me a loan to start the shop, and they did. They gave me $3,000 to make the first purchases, and we opened the shop in a little space within the church for a while. But most of our business was from people in the church because other people couldn't find it.
Right.
When the bicycle shop went out and that space became available,
Right by the visitor center.
right next door to it, we went in there, and now we're doing very good business. And I'd invite everybody to come in and see. We have some really nice, unique things that you don't see other places.
And especially the story behind it. That's very important.
It's all made by, we buy everything from some group that's in the Fair Trade Federation. And what that means is they have been inspected by this federation to make sure that the people that make handmade goods get the money for the handmade goods.
Right, so it's
not like a sweatshop.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Speaking of goods and festivals and buying and so forth, there's this other project you're involved with called Chris Kindlemark.
Yeah.
How did that come about? See, I just ran down the list. Jerry did this, Jerry did that. How'd that start?
Well, my heritage is German, and I was always fascinated. I get German Life magazine. I was always fascinated with the Chris Kindlemarks in Europe. Always wanted to go to one, never made it, but so I just thought that would be a fun thing to do here. And Gerry took me to one in Chicago because I wanted to see it.
Let's describe what a German Chris Kindlemark is. I mean, we have this, and it's very close.
In Germany and Austria and Switzerland, all the Germanic sort of countries, the month of December, they take their town square and they have these elaborate little huts that they put up, and they're temporary huts, but each vendor has his wares in there, and they sell candles and lace and pyramids and smoker men and just candy and all nuts, all kinds of things like that. And it's how they do their Christmas shopping. And
it's almost festival
it is.
Christmas shopping.
It's very much so. They have music and chestnuts roasting and all that sort of thing. So Gerry was reading, and he saw that Chicago had one. He said, let's go. You can see what it is because you keep talking about it. So we went up there one year, and they have a very nice big one. It's very much like the ones in Germany. And so it was lots of fun. It was cold. It was outside, but, you know. So I just thought, well, maybe we could do it. And when we had that big space down at Markham Park, I thought, well, that's available. So the first year we decided to do it in tents, big tents, and make it.
Because like you said, it's fun, it's outside.
Right, exactly. Well, we got there on Friday morning, and there was about a quarter of an inch of ice on the tents, and they were starting to sag, and we got nervous, so we spent about 3 hours pushing with brooms against the top of the tents to get the ice off so that we'd be ready for Friday night. And our vendors came in, and then we opened Friday night, but we couldn't have the lantern parade because there was so much ice on the street that we thought it would be dangerous for children to try to be walking carrying a lantern. So we came back Saturday morning, and there was 8 inches of snow on the tent. So we had to push that off. So, but it was successful. It was cold, and it was not the best circumstance for the food or the musicians. I felt really bad for them. But because it was so cold, it was just
the Clobberheads were playing, and they were fun.
Yeah,
they were fun, but they were
cold. Yeah, it was hard for them.
Because those trumpets, they'll just rip your lips right off.
Yeah, right. So after that, the committee talked it over, and then we decided we need to find some place where we don't have the weather as a factor. And we thought about the fairgrounds, but then it wouldn't be in German Village. Different things, and so somebody came up, I think it may have been Steve Timmer, I'm not sure.
Because he was the one complaining most about being out there in the cold all day.
Well, he was out in the cold the most.
He was doing it the most.
Yeah, he was. And so we talked to the hotel, and they said sure, and so we decided to put it there because it's right next to German Village, and that was part of the thing, was to promote Hamilton's German Village, that, you know,
Sure.
along with having a nice little German market. So we've done it there the last 2 years, and it's been a great success.
And it will continue?
It will continue. In fact, the chairman's sitting right out there in the audience right now, Barb Zellner. She's the chairman, and she's got ads in Ohio Magazine and everything else, so it's growing.
Fantastic.
So we're excited about that.
I want to step back a little bit. We've mentioned a couple of things that have happened around the Visitor Center, where it is now, and you're involved with the Hamilton Visitors Bureau, and have been for a long time. And you mentioned a little bit earlier that when they called about Ice Fest, the Visitors Bureau was in the hotel, had a little room. It was just Debbie. How did that progress, and how did things change with the Hamilton Visitors Bureau?
Well, she was
and kind of what the purpose is.
okay.
For.
She was in what I would call a large closet. That was the Hamilton Visitors Bureau, and it was difficult to find the Hamilton Visitors Bureau. They'd say it's in the hotel, so you'd go in the hotel, but you couldn't see an office or anything. And the Community Foundation was wanting the High Street side of the Anthony Wayne. It was empty, and if you looked in the windows, the ceiling was falling down and all kinds of things. It was decaying. And John Gaduli wanted to get that building alive again, and they couldn't make apartments in it because it had been retail before. So for the historic credits, I mean, everything is so...
Right. There's hoops you have to jump through, and guidelines
exactly.
and zonings. And,
right. So we said we would like to, well, first the City of Sculpture had moved in the very end of it. We got a grant from the Community Foundation because all the stuff was in my kitchen and it was getting overwhelming. And Gerry said, why don't you try to find an office, you know? So we got a grant, and we moved in the very end building where the shop is now.
Where the Hearts of Hope is
right.
now. Okay.
And then John contacted me. He said, "Why don't we try to get the?" I was on the Visitors Bureau board at the time, and John said, "Why don't we move the Visitors Bureau over there, and they'll have a presence. People can find it, and it'll clean up part of that building." So we did. He said, "Can you talk to the guy that owns the building?" And I said, "Yeah, I can talk to him." And he said, "We'll help with the financing of rehabbing the building from the Community Foundation." So I spoke with Mr. Coleman, and he was upset because he couldn't make apartments, because he thought when he bought the building he was going to be able to, and so he didn't, So he said, "Yeah, I don't care about that part of the building." I said, "Okay, well, if I can get somebody to rehab the whole building, can we have a long lease?" And he goes, "Yeah, you can have whatever you want." And I said, "Okay, I'll take a 20-year lease for $20. He said, "Okay."
$1 a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
$1 a year.
$1 a year. So.
So who fronted the money for the lease?
The Visitors Bureau,
Okay.
because we had a little bit of money. So then we started on the construction and rehabbing of the part that is the Visitors Bureau, which is the front part where the reception desk is. Behind it was Debbie's office for the Visitors Bureau. And then there was one other office, and the chamber moved Gerry Richards, who was Rediscover Hamilton, into that office. So we got a little bit of rent money for that. So the Visitors Bureau holds the lease on the building, the rental lease. And so after that happened for a while, then a couple of years, maybe a year and a half later, John Gaduli said, "Why don't we just finish off the rest of that building? You can put in one more office, and we could have a conference room, because so many groups need a place to have a meeting and they don't have a place." And at the same time, the hotel was getting ready to close for rehab. So the Visitors Bureau money comes from the bed tax that you pay when you have a room at the hotel.
Okay, right.
That money goes to a Visitors Bureau. That's a state law. So for a while, we didn't have much income because the hotel was gone. And all we had were a couple of motels, and that didn't bring in much money. So we had to watch the money we had very carefully. So we had to go to an all-volunteer Visitors Bureau instead of having a director.
A paid position. No income.
Right. You can't have a paid position when you have no income. So that's sort of how it all functioned, and we just got lots of fabulous volunteers, and still have. They're mostly ladies, but there's a couple of guys, and they man the desk and answer questions and help people with maps, and they know what's going on, so they can tell people. So it's fun to work there. And you really get to know what's going on, because we have all kinds of stuff there. So,
and it's interesting because, again, it's a happy place because people are coming in looking for something. You get a lot of calls. You get a lot of people coming in. I mean, is it seasonal? Are there? I guess, how could you describe the tourist industry in Hamilton?
We're busiest, I would say, in the summertime. For one thing, a lot of class reunions take place. And those people come back and they want to know where this is and where that is, and what can you do now, and where are the sculptures, and all that sort of thing. So we get a lot of business from that. But I wish every Hamiltonian could know that when visitors come to Hamilton, to a person, they come in there and they say, "This is the most beautiful town." And I think sometimes the people that live here, we don't recognize how beautiful this town is. For one thing, we were blessed with real wide Main Street, and a lot of towns don't have that. And then to have the focal point at the end of the street with the monument. But they just, all the flowers and everything, especially in the summertime, they just comment to a person how beautiful they think the town is. And now with all the restoration that's gone on with all these Art Deco buildings, we have people coming to town to specifically see the Art Deco buildings.
Really?
Because most cities have torn them down. We put those, what do you call them, shades, or you know how they covered them up with those metal.
Oh yeah, the grills.
Grills,
and so
yeah,
forth.
grills. I couldn't think of
That's right.
over them, but when but we didn't tear them down. We just hit them, and now when you took them off, then you have these gems.
And we had that discussion actually here when we were talking with Don Ryan about, again, the opportunity in these buildings to invest and own your city core rather than turning it over and losing it and being able to control it. And
Exactly.
it, years ago has paid off now.
It sure has.
Interesting. I didn't realize people were coming that much to look at our building.
Yep.
And we also get, I find, again, with where I work, I'm so busy down here, and you're busy, 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 forget to actually look. And then, like you said, when we come to the visitor center, like when people come to visit up at Pyramid Hill, and I get to share and show, it's like, oh yeah, yeah, I do really, I am excited about this. I'm excited about my city or where I am and so forth. So it brings that excitement back, and it makes you re-aware of what's going on.
Right. I'm amazed if you look at our visitors book, guest book, we have people from all over Europe and China and just plus all over the United States that come in for different reasons.
And look at our beautiful town. Speaking of beautifying in our beautiful town, let's talk about the Garden Club.
Okay.
A lot of folks may not realize that the Garden Club the Hamilton Garden Club is not just a social gathering get-together. These are down and dirty.
It's a working garden club.
Working garden club. And where does the work happen?
Well, the garden club has done a lot of civic beautification projects. The main one is at the Hillside Garden, which is right beside Fitton Center on the levee there. There's a garden. That whole hillside they paid to plant it through fundraising activities, and then they maintain it by monthly cleanups during the good weather and all that sort of thing. We paid to have the front of the old city building landscape 2 years ago, a year ago. This is the second year for that. And all the roses and everything that are in front of that, we sponsored that. There's a small little circle down by the Welcome Center. We paid for that to be landscaped. When you come from the hotel to go across the bridge, you know how the arrow's always green? That garden there, we paid to have that landscaped. We've just done a lot of landscaping projects all around town. We have a big project coming up on Main Street where they've had to tear down the condemned buildings and they're putting in pocket parks.
Yes.
We're currently having fundraisers to get enough money. We want to landscape one of those so that
It's not just a flat lot.
Right. It'll be more like the way Armstead Park is, with landscaping on the street side and parking behind the landscaping area. But we just had a big fundraiser last Friday night at the Fitton Center, and that was very successful. We were really happy about that. And we're going to have a garden tour on June 11th. If anybody needs tickets, you can get them at the Welcome Center.
There you go.
It's $12 in advance and $15 the day of. And there are 9 beautiful gardens, 2 public gardens, and 7 homes.
And
gardens.
Is this an annual event, or you've done this?
We've done it before, and other people have done it before, but we haven't done it for a while. But we used to have a plant sale every spring, and that was our main fundraiser. But now everybody has a plant sale, and you don't make that much money, and these pocket parks are going to be expensive, and we felt like we needed a change. So we changed this year to the tablescaping party at the Fitton Center, and then the garden tour.
And the garden tour is June 11th, and what area is that going to take place? That's on the west side? Or?
There's 2 downtown gardens.
Okay. How is this going to work? Is this a walking tour? Is it guided
You'll
tour?
have to drive, because you drive and then walk through their garden. And there's a map on the back of the ticket. Most of the gardens, all the home gardens are on the west side, a couple on Heathwood, one on New London Road, I think it is, and one in Sanders, just all around, one up in Taft Place. So they're very, very beautiful gardens. So it's not the homes inside, it's the gardens.
The garden themselves.
Yeah.
Very good. And the homeowner will be there to kind of guide through, or just walk?
The garden club members will be there to guide through, to identify plants for people and things like that. And we're going to have one of them is at the Hillside Garden, and there we're going to have a treasure chest, which is garden items, gently used garden items that people might want to have.
Okay.
Tools and pots and things like that, some new items. And then at Jane Jacobs' house, she has a gorgeous garden, we're going to have a small plant sale, which would be plants from the members' gardens, like what we did before.
Okay.
But instead of digging 25, I only had to dig 4 this year.
Okay, so running down the list, what's your next project? I mean, I think you don't have anything else going on. Yeah.
I don't know what my next project is. I think it's going to be, I have grandchildren ranging in age from 23 to 1. So
Wow.
I think there'll be a wedding one of these years, in the next year or 2, and then I want to spend as much time as I can with the 3-year-old and the 1-year-old, because I doubt seriously if I'll be attending their wedding. But I don't know. I haven't thought about that. I just do what I do. I like being busy. I have gotten up every day of my whole life very early, because my parents said, get up. Even on Saturday, we weren't allowed to sleep in. And it's just a habit, and I like to be busy. So.
And it's paid off for us. We appreciate your efforts in the community.
Well, I haven't done anything by myself. It's always been a whole bunch of people that have worked on everything. So, no one person does things. It takes a whole group of people.
And a lot of involvement in a lot of things.
This town is blessed with people who volunteer their time, very blessed with people who are very generous with their money, and I think that's one reason we are able to get some of these things done where other communities struggle with it. And we just have people that will help, and in one way or another, and that's the beauty of this town.
And there's a lot of new exciting things going on still.
Exactly.
It's all the renaissance of Hamilton, as it were.
It is. Mm-hmm.
Would anybody like to add any comments, anecdotes?
Talk a little bit about your father.
Okay, what would you like to know?
Dick asked me about talk about your father.
My dad was Jim Grimm, and he was the director of health and physical education for the Hamilton City Schools. And then in the summer times, he was the parks director for Hamilton. And in those days, the 40s, 50s, and 60s, there were about, I think it was 18 to 22 playgrounds in town. All the elementary schools had a playground, and you had playground leaders. When you were in high school, if you wanted to be a playground leader, he taught a course which you could take as an elective called recreational leadership, and you learned how to be a playground leader, which is what my summer job was. At 25 cents an hour. But
that's where you learned how to volunteer. Only getting 25 cents an hour.
Well, then it was pretty good money. So anyway, so he just ran that, for years and years, and he had lots of unique things, little fish lessons. Because we were a river town, my dad thought every kid should learn how to swim because they used to have drownings all the time in the river because it would get hot and kids would go get in the river. So he was a big believer in everybody learning to swim, so they had free swimming lessons at the pools in Hamilton. And he worked until he got a pool in every section of town. And the playground leaders, mostly the girls, the boys would go to the playground in the morning, but the girl leaders would go teach swimming lessons at these pools for the morning, and then they would go to the playground. And the playgrounds were open till about 8 o'clock at night. And every week was a different theme. And one week was Wheels Week, and we would have races over at the Derby track, or they first started on Joe Nuxall Boulevard. And then, I don't know, he had the Flip Twisters for high school, which was a gymnastics team. They were way ahead of their time. Fred Belden and Dennis Hargett were. Dad did stuff. He was a showman.
He was creating all these summer camps, essentially,
Yes,
in Hamilton,
right.
in public areas.
You went to the playground in the morning, and you would go by the champion whistles. When they blow the noon whistle, you knew to go home and eat lunch, and then you'd go back and play again till the 5 o'clock whistle, and you knew to go home and eat dinner. And then we'd go back again, and the general rule was when the street lights come on, you had to go home.
Yeah.
So that was just. It was a real simple life, but we were lucky, I'll tell you.
And you didn't, let's see, at that time your parents knew generally where you were and what you were doing, but you were gone pretty much all day.
Yep.
And you didn't have a cell phone? You didn't,
No. No.
But it's interesting, at that time, you would be gone for the day.
Yeah.
They didn't want.
Just back and forth, and you could walk to the playgrounds because they had so many of them. They were in all the different neighborhoods.
Right.
Yeah. So
you weren't necessarily running across town. You were still in the neighborhood,
No.
but you had that freedom.
And you had a leader there that was organizing whatever you were going to do for the day. They had arts and crafts.
So there was structure involved.
Right.
Now, and did that carry on because you were involved with the parks or on the parks board as that transition? So is that kind of where that love for the parks came about?
Yes, definitely. So, and now I was on the old Parks Commission, and then when Joshua Smith got the great idea to make a conservancy, that has just been a whole different, and our parks are really going to be spectacular.
Going back up.
Yep,
Going back up.
really. What's happened in a year's time is just amazing to me. We're going to, on May 30th, we're going to open 5 splash parks, so they'll be in all areas of town. And just the look of the parks and everything is so much better, and we've got the right guy running it, Steve Timmer. He's a workhorse, but he really knows what he's doing too. So it's a better situation because when you're a conservancy, you're not a department of the city, and so you can do things differently than all the rules that you have in the city.
Right.
So it was a very, very wise decision, in my opinion.
Strategic move and building back up. Anybody else like to welcome to add, as I mentioned, anecdotes, questions, comments, experiences? Gerry, again, I appreciate you taking time, especially since, not to embarrass you, but you just had some eye surgery done this week, just a couple days ago.
I did.
So thank you for,
You're welcome.
for still coming up here, and thank you for sharing. We appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank
It's
you,
been my
Gerry.
pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, and again, appreciate your support of Miami University Hamilton, as well as TV Hamilton and this program, and supporting the community. As Gerry has pointed out, there's a lot of wonderful things that, again, if we lift our eyes up a little bit, we say, oh yeah, this I'm proud of this community. So thank you very much for being here. Good night.